strategy rather, at Optimal Capital. Francis Newton-Stacy, along with the Fitz-Gerald Group, their principal, Keith Fitz-Gerald. And I want to start with this news. And Keith, before we go there, understand, folks, earlier today, maybe an hour and a half ago, 2 hours ago, the Biden administration really took a serious shot at cryptocurrency, talking about the use of it to evade taxes, maybe logging or recording transactions above $10,000. And so, Keith, for me, on one hand, I can feel Chairman Powell of the Fed saying we have to be in this game. We have to be there. And on the other side of it, the Biden administration is saying, no, we want to completely clobber it and miss out on all of this. In the meantime, China is building their own apparatus. Your thoughts?
That's the key right there. Not having a U.S. digital dollar is the single biggest strategic threat our nation faces today. It's worse than any missile system, any biological weapon, because if China succeeds in doing this, it can supplant and trade yuan for currency and trade outside the existing global U.S. dollar-denominated system. So the Fed has no choice. They've got to do it. My fear is that China can lock people in a building and say, get it done in 90 days. They're already digitizing the yuan. We're going to have papers and discussion sessions and talk about it for the next 10 years.
Shana?
Charles?
Yes.
So this was always coming, right? The whole essence of blockchain is the fact that it's supposed to be decentralized, right? And the whole essence of the central bank is that it is centralized. And so they are going to come up with a centralized competitor in order to control it, in order to fulfill their dual mandate from Congress. That's the simple nature of this.
Francis, I'm sorry. I looked at the guest list, and Shana's later in the show. I apologize. Yeah, I agree with you. This was always coming, but in my mind, I think the Fed is not just alerting the public. I think they're trying to nudge this administration as it's going to war with crypto. I think the Biden administration's got it all wrong, and they're making a huge mistake. And I feel like Chairman Powell, when he speaks, he wasn't speaking to anyone but an audience of one, the guy sitting in the Oval Office. Hey, let's talk about this market, though, and I want to stick with you, Francis Newton-Stacy. The last 24 hours, what do you make of it? Look, can this bounce become something bigger?
Yeah, buy the dip. I mean, the make it or break it point on the S&P for me is 41.21. And I just see that the inflationary narrative, even though it's becoming consensus and started in the latter half of last year, it's not going to last forever. I'm with Powell that it's transitory. You've got a number of deflationary things coming into the system in the latter half of the year. I look at it like a seesaw. So while it's up and to the right, there are some mitigating factors coming in. But for now, definitely buy the dip, and the S&P is making a series of higher lows, and volatility is falling off of a cliff. And I don't mind being compared to Shana. She's amazing.
You're both amazing. And by the way, I agree with everything you just said. Let's talk about this Fed meeting for a moment, though, Keith. There were some interesting things in there. Here it is. I don't think they're going to remove the punch bowl. I don't care what the data says. I think Powell will find a reason to keep this going into 2024. But your thoughts?
Well, I thought the Fed lost the plot a long time ago, and the situation is not one we can have a whole lot of control over. But you know what? You can focus on CEOs. You can focus on growing companies. There's lots of reasons why the Fed's going to do something stupid, and that's an opportunity for savvy investors because guess what? You buy low and you sell high.
This morning, the Philadelphia Fed manufacturing number came in. It was a little less than expected, but what I love about those reports are the little kernels in there. There's a special question, and it was asking about inflation. And what I was blown away by is that these guys said they can raise prices faster than their prices are increasing. I love pricing power, Francis Newton-Stacy. I think it's it's what I focus on when I'm looking for stocks to buy and go long on. Just your thoughts on companies that might have pricing power in this environment that could be good investments.
Well, I mean, basically what I'm looking at is I'm looking at buying the dips in commodities because we have a record amount of debt in the system, and that's going to put further pressure on the U.S. dollar. So I don't know that I'm looking at individual stocks from that perspective.
Really?
But margins are going to get margins are going to get compressed, okay. Charles. You've got debt service coming up. Let me ask
you, which commodities are you looking at to buy on a dip? Because I'm watching them pull back a little bit. Lumber was down 6-7 days in a row. It's up a little bit today. Oil hit a serious resistance point. It's pulled back. I'm looking at these commodities and wondering which one I should buy on a dip.
We've owned soybeans for quite a while. We still like copper. We still like lumber. We still like all of these things. They trade directly inversely to the dollar. And while you saw a little bit of a dollar bounce yesterday on the Fed minutes, it faded pretty quickly. So I think we still see some further pressure on the U.S. dollar, but we'll be watching it closely. I think that this trade is almost finished, but not quite yet.
All right, and the dollar might break a real serious support point here. I think 88 on DXY. Keith, I'll give you the last word here. What are you looking at? I know you're a buying a dip kind of guy as well.
Well, we were. And, you know, companies that can protect their margin, ironically, are the ones that are the most hated right now. Any of the big tech companies, Tesla and Palantir in particular, have caught my attention because the herd misunderstands what they're trying to do and I think the potential. So those are two. We've adjusted positions in Apple, Microsoft, a lot of the names we usually talk about.
Francis and Keith, thank you both very much. Really appreciate it. Up next, folks.